This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. This is A Course in Miracles. We're reading from Chapter 9, The Acceptance of the Atonement. We're reading Section 2, The Answer to Prayer. Everyone who has ever tried to use prayer to ask for something has experienced what appears to be failure. This is not true in connection with specific things that might be harmful, but also in connection with requests that are strictly in line with this course. The latter in particular might be incorrectly interpreted as proof that the course does not mean what it says. You must remember, however, that the course states, and repeatedly, that its purpose is the escape from fear. Paragraph 2. Let us suppose, then, that what you ask of the Holy Spirit is what you really want, but you're afraid of it. Should this be the case, your attainment of it would no longer be what you want. This is why certain specific forms of healing are not achieved. Even when the state of healing is, an individual may ask for physical healing because he is fearful of bodily harm. At the same time, if he were healed physically, the threat to his thought system might be considerably more fearful to him than its physical expression. In this case, he is not really asking for release from fear, but for the removal of a symptom that he himself selected. This request is, therefore, not for healing at all.
The idea about praying and not getting your prayer answered is so much a part of the prayer process. In other words, it's hit or miss. We talked about that before. Yeah. The Course says that God is consistent. Mm-hmm. So does it mean that God or the Holy Spirit cherry picks answers, saying, I'll give you some stuff that I like, I won't give you other stuff that I don't like. The Course is saying here that even if you pray for things that are absolutely in line with the Course, mm-hmm. some form of healing or insight, I know that I've had the experience more times than not of doing the lesson in the back, I will there be light, or that I see light, and I certainly don't see any light. In fact, I might end up feeling depressed for some reason. So there seems to be an inconsistency going on, and I think it's important to grasp this point and to realize that the answer to prayer, as it says in the Course, is utterly consistent.
I agree.
I'm the one that's not consistent. Okay, that's just an axiom that I've got to go with. And the Course is even saying, why would you not get a prayer answered? You have to read it and then contemplate. It's because an answer to prayer will never increase fear.
Right.
It's just period, that way. In other words, if I, let's say I had a neighbor and I lay hands on them and they get up and they used to be crippled and now they're not, mm-hmm. that you assume, just like wanting $1 million mm-hmm. or wanting a solution to all your problems, it can create a sense of free fall, vertigo, because I trust the world in the way that it delivers things to me habitually.
Right.
And I can become fearful if things don't happen the way I'm sort of set up to expect them to. And so I can make a request, not realizing that the answer, if given to me in the form that I asked it, mm-hmm. would frighten me. It's so it takes a certain amount of insight and maturity to say, well, why? What does it mean, or how did I get this prayer answered? It goes on into this with the latter paragraphs.
Yes. And let's just speak a little bit about the whole physical healing thing and everything, because being that I still identify with my body and things like that, not doing something, thinking, I can pray my way and have an answer, can be extremely frightening. If I feel like I should be doing something as simple as taking some aspirin for a headache, but I'm going to pray my way and say, I'm going to wait for Jesus to heal this or whatever. Now, maybe the headache will go away. Maybe whatever the pain or the situation, there can be many things. It could be cancer for that matter. And will I trust it, or will it induce more fear?
Well, the subtlety of that is, let's say you pray, you're going to pray your way through a headache. Mm-hmm. Something as simple as that. You're going to pray your way through. Well, what ends up happening is, if you get the answer, what were you praying for? Are you praying for physical power over your headache, over your body? Mm-hmm. In which case, if the prayer is answered, that's an affirmation. Mm-hmm. Holy Spirit's not going to give you that power.
Yeah.
Because that power that you're requesting is based on a fear.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've got levels of subtlety that you have to get into. These are subtle objects of meditation. Mm-hmm. Just because I ask, it seems simple enough. But if I'm given reinforcement that I have the ability to lay on hands and heal, or pray my way through a headache even, it can lead to magical thinking, reinforcement of other sort of neurotic goals that I have. Holy Spirit's not going to do that at all. Yeah. Totally organic. However, a prayer made to the Holy Spirit or to Jesus through the Holy Spirit or God or whatever, and it goes on with this later, the prayer is answered every single time. Mm-hmm.
And I was just thinking about that guy. You told me this story about, I think he was a rock climber or whatever, and that a boulder came down and landed on his head.
Oh no, he was just hiking and he was climbing around and he got caught in a minor avalanche and his hand was trapped under a rock, and he sat there for 3 days.
I mean, no matter how much prayer, once this is happening, something else has to come upon what needs to be done to save the human life, unless you just want to die out there.
Well, no, I know, and that gets into a whole thing of what's the difference. It's like, in his case, he ended up cutting off his own hand.
Right.
Creating a tourniquet around his upper arm, and it's a great story. And he ends up being a speaker, an inspirational speaker.
Right.
A person who amputates their own arm with a penknife that was dull. Yeah. That's a story.
Yes.
And that guy has a story forever.
Yeah.
And but that whole thing, what is he going to pray for? For the rock to dissolve, for people to show up? We don't know. And this is I don't know who I am. Mm-hmm. The point is, the guy is now, without his hand, he's an inspirational speaker.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe that's what's to come of it, and we don't know why these things happen in our lives, and we think that this is the worst thing that could ever happen. And yet, I know another woman who shot off a part of her leg, and that she becomes an inspiration to other people who are amputees, because she
did the same thing. Inspirational speaker.
Yeah, she becomes a source of refuge for others who have had similar problems. So we never know why things happen to us. Okay, I'm going to continue reading. The Bible emphasizes that all prayer is answered, and this is indeed true. The very fact that the Holy Spirit has been asked for anything will ensure a response. Yet it is equally certain that no response given by him will ever be one that would increase fear. It is possible that his answer will not be heard. It is impossible, however, that it will be lost. There are many answers you have already received, but have not yet heard. I assure you that they are waiting for you. And that's beautiful. I just think, I just want to make a comment that I think that's a beautiful thing, that we do think that because we're not getting an answer, particularly in the manner in which we think we wanted that. And you and I have had instances where, the prayer about, the the modification of divorce stuff and everything, and it didn't work out. And so, or for what we thought was going to happen, and yet everything has been taken care of in our life. And so the answer was something different than we thought.
Well, the simple reality is I will pray for a specific thing. I'll pray that I have whatever more money, or that this problem goes away, or that this concern, whatever, goes away. I don't have a full picture. So I don't understand the many, many, infinite variety of ways that a prayer can be answered.
Right.
So if prayers answered becomes a test of I put out a specific request and whether I get it or not, well, you can see between the relationship of a child and a parent how insane that is. A child absolutely cannot measure the love that the parent has by how many wishes the parent fulfills for the kid.
Absolutely.
Because then you've got the child running the relationship. That's not a loving parent,
right,
to let the child who doesn't have a full picture run the relationship.
I agree. And so that's good. Paragraph 4. If you would know your prayers are answered, never doubt a son of God. Do not question him and do not confound him, for your faith in him is your faith in yourself. If you would know God and his answer, believe in me, whose faith in you cannot be shaken. Can you ask of the Holy Spirit truly and doubt your brother? Believe in his words. Believe his words are true because of the truth that is in him. You will unite with the truth in him, and his words will be true. As you hear him, you will hear me. Listening to truth is the only way you can hear it now and finally know it.
Now this is again a fantastic part. Can you hear your brother? The question that comes to mind is, what is hearing? When he's saying hear your brother, he is answering your prayer. He is being true. He is delivering you truth. Now, obviously, the first time I read that, I thought, what, the chances of getting truth out of somebody's mouth that's just a random character off the street or a neighbor or whatever is so slim. But the Course is saying is, those are forms. The words coming out of them, that's a form.
Yeah.
And that there is a content. Now, where's the content? The content is in the context that it was issued in. It could be in appearances. It could be intuitions that arise within you. Context is the entire picture. The form of the words, the form of the deliverer of the words, is not what this is talking about. It's saying that prayer is answered. And if I am disposed to receiving the truth from a brother, yes, I will get the truth. And then I think it goes on to other things.
The message your brother gives you is up to you. What does he say to you? What would you have him say? Your decision about him determines the message you receive.
So your brother is going to say something to you. Don't glaze over the fact that it just said, I determine what he said.
Yeah, exactly.
This can be generalized to all of my whole life experience. I determine what this means. That's one of the affirmations in the first 3 days, or it's like lesson 2 or 3 or something. I determine what the meaning of things is. So is Jesus here is saying, my response in this world, my creative response, is not to interpret what I think is happening. It's to create meaning and purpose. And in this, Jesus is saying that when a brother talks to me, when a situation arises, I am given, because my mind is a part of God's, I have the ability to determine whether this is what this brother is saying to me. It's not going to be in the forms.
Yeah, and I mean, just reflecting on, past relationships for myself. And I know that I prayed about the relationship itself and everything else, and I continued to experience pain. But the thing of it is that if I'm really honest about myself, I have a pretty good threshold of emotional and even some physical pain. And so it seemed to get worse and worse. But the thing of it is that I know for me to make a change in my life, it sometimes takes somebody to really shove me. So what was I asking for? I must have been asking for the pain to increase to a certain point so that I will move on, because maybe internally that was already what was going on. So that's kind of a weird answer to prayer, is that, well, you're just going to stick with it being sort of this way or that until it gets like this. It kind of goes to a point where you say, oh, I'm supposed to care for myself. I'm supposed to.
The prayer for physical healing is it's a tough one, because obviously aches and pains or whatever, they can be extremely limiting. You get to where you can't move around, you're howling about, you're shuffling, whatever. And then let's say you are afflicted by something that's in the water, something that's in the air. It's not your fault. And you think, well, what does that have to do with the Holy Spirit and an answer to healing? Mm-hmm. In other words, does the fact that there's something in the water that's creating a problem, let's say I got some lead-lined pipes or something like that, and so I'm feeling sluggish or messed up, the answer to the prayer might not be in the healing. It might be in an intuition or a phrase from someone about what that situation is about. It could be in another person arising up in my life that shows me that they've got it that bad. They had the same situation. This is their mindset that deals with it. Mm-hmm. My sister has this thing where she actually said that she focuses down on where her pain is. She's been dealing with pain for most of her life. I'm not saying that she should deal with pain like that, but she has dealt with certain compartmentalization of the pain that they actually teach in some more advanced situations in hospitals, of focalizing the pain to, does your knee hurt? Well, it's not really the knee. Is it the thigh? Well, it's not really the thigh. It's the hip. Is it really the ligament? Where is it? What part of the ligament? And you become very, very specific and tuned in. I'm not saying that it's an answer to a prayer to tune in. It's just that there might be something about becoming focused, or, like you said, learning that I have certain strength, or that.
Well, sometimes it's the opposite of what. In other words, the pain that you're receiving is because of a certain personality, let's say, that doesn't move for change unless something happens at a pretty high level. And for some people, their tolerance for making a decision to change is pretty low. It's like, hey, I'm out of here, whether it's with their body or whatever, they just won't deal with it. They're going to take the extra painkillers. They're going to take all this other stuff. They're going to do whatever it is to avoid the situation and just, make the change. Even though the Course tells you that you just end up substituting the next thing that comes up in your life because you haven't really dealt with the situation of what real healing is.
Well, I had a guy.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Again, like I've said before, life as it comes to me, whether it's pain or circumstances in the yard or in my own head, is a koan. A koan meaning a word puzzle, a logic puzzle, a knowledge puzzle. And that it's my place to engage, relate, extend myself to the world, and then receive the world extending back to me, and not fend it off. Mm-hmm. In the case of your aches and pains, if there's a predetermined response that when I feel this hip pain come on, I'm going to leap into action like it's a roach infestation, and I'm going to deal with it. Mm-hmm. That's an attack.
Yeah, right.
So, and so then you come into this thing like, okay, I'm going to attack my illness until it's not there anymore. Well, you're laughing, but no, that's exactly what people do. I know. That's what chemotherapy is. I'm going to attack it until it's not there anymore. Mm-hmm. And if that's the situation where I'm attacking it, the Course is saying, you're definitely not getting any answers here if you're in an attack mode to take care of this thing. Mm-hmm. So then you end up with a deeper level, which is, I am afraid to extend myself to a weakness or an illness. I'm afraid to let that illness extend itself toward me as a communication, as a piece of knowledge. I'm afraid of it because I don't want it to overwhelm me. I don't want it to take over. So then it's like, overwhelm who? Who are you afraid it's going to overwhelm? Well, this weak thing. This thing that's overwhelmed by a cold or anything.
So how does that relate to also the brother, extending to the brother, in which it says, do not question him and do not confound him, for your faith in him is your faith in yourself. If you would know God and his answer, believe in me, whose faith in you cannot be shaken.
Well, that whole phrase is so counterintuitive in a way, where you just it doesn't.
That we had gone on anyway. The message your brother gives up you is up to you.
It's up to you to decide. But let me give a real life example. I'm walking across the field. I return back to a certain age section of my own life, between 12 and 15 or 17, 18, whatever. There's a certain period of my life anyway, maybe others have others, but where impactful situations happen. Life-changing, impactful circumstances that really created a certain mark on me. And in this case, I had just I just gotten into the Honor Society in the 9th grade, and I was a brand new kid at this school in the South. We had moved from the Midwest down to the Mid-South. And, so I feel like I'm in a foreign country. I can hardly understand what some of the teachers are saying, with their... mostly a heavy Mississippi or Arkansas accent. Memphis accent is very mild, but it attracted people from everywhere. So there are all kinds of folks from some rough areas, some backwater areas of Mississippi and Arkansas and East Tennessee in Memphis. Well, this kid passes me, Andy. And I didn't know him very well. He was I don't know if he was in homeroom or what, but he passes me after winning, after I got this Honor Society thing. We're walking back to the school after the awards program. Me feeling totally clueless. I don't know a person there, and I don't know why they gave me the Honor Society thing. It seemed ridiculous because I was... Well, anyway, this guy turns, he looks at me, and he says, You are an ugly MF. You are an ugly, just right in the face. And I'm going, what did I do to deserve this? Well, in the course, this is an extension. I have the choice and the ability to, whether now or then, to see that as an extension of communication from a brother telling me a truth. Now, the form of it is absolutely an attack. Absolutely tearing me down. What do I hear? I choose what I hear. If I choose to hear an attack from him, that's what I get. And I maybe say, that doesn't make sense, I don't know why. Why did this guy go across the field, turn on his heels, just to tell me how ugly I am? Well, I would say that, and I'll be brief, with my...
I'd say he was threatened by you by some reason.
Well, he's threatened, but what I need to get is the Holy Spirit is talking to Phil Hamilton. It's in this certain situation. I needed to realize that I needed to take that judgment, that harsh judgment. He was telling me, and I've said this in other places, what I thought about myself.
Oh, yeah.
He was giving me the truth of what I thought about me. And I can feel the balk. Okay, because then confronted with that by this guy, I can say, is this accurate? Is he telling me the truth about what I really am? Because this is what's running in my head. That's the opportunity I have. That's the opportunity he gave me. Obviously, I'm not going to spin this to where he was giving me a compliment or that anything. It was a hard, very difficult thing. But if I had listened to my brother, okay, and I knew that my brother was sharing truth via the Holy Spirit, I would not have viewed it as an attack. I would have viewed it as an object for contemplation.
Yeah.
And I would say, does the Spirit ever say you're ugly? Of course not.
No.
So, if the Spirit turns around and says, I'm giving you a message that you are blatantly ugly and unlovable and every terrible thing, and you know this is the truth coming from the Spirit, you have to reject the form and try to comprehend the energetic impulse
message
that it's landing. Do I want to receive that truth? Am I going to receive that from God? In other words, am I going to see God and the Spirit as harsh, judgmental, punitive, irrational? No, of course not. I have to give them the truth. And if they say that, if I'm getting that as truth, then it's a teaching for me. And it has to be a teaching about me reflecting. He's reflecting back to me what I thought about myself. It was time for me to examine what I thought about my own personal presentation and ugliness. It was time for me to make peace with that, to understand it, and to find some truth within myself.
Yeah, and then forgive yourself for beating yourself up, because if that's the way it's coming at you, Anyway, I mean, obviously when we're teenagers, we don't know what we're getting. All we hear is what we hear.
Okay, and what I would say is, okay, so the Spirit then lays a harsh judgment on me. How did I take it? Did I go back, just given that I'm witless and I'm not doing the Course in Miracles and I'm not trying to look for truth from a brother, especially not, Andy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I look at this and so how did I take it? I took it like I take many things. I said to myself, he's a moron. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I don't know what his personal problem is. Well, in a sense, it reinforced my rejection of the label. Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
That's what Spirit would want me to do.
Oh, yeah.
But I could have gone more deeply, right? But I went into it as deep as a numbskull 15-year-old can do without anything else going for him.
Right. Okay, let's finish this up here on this particular paragraph. On paragraph 5, your decision about him, your brother, determines the message you receive. Remember that the Holy Spirit is in him, and his voice speaks to you through him. What can so holy a brother tell you except truth? But are you listening to it? Your brother may not know who he is, but there is a light in his mind that does know. This light can shine in yours, giving truth to his words and making you able to hear them. His words are the Holy Spirit's answer to you. Is your faith in him strong enough to let you hear? Yeah.
What is hearing? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly.
What is hearing?
So I'm going to go on because this goes together here. You can no more pray for yourself alone than you can find joy for yourself alone. Prayer is the reinstatement of inclusion, directed by the Holy Spirit under the laws of God. Salvation is of your brother. The Holy Spirit extends from your mind to his and answers you. You cannot hear the voice for God in yourself alone, because you're not alone, and his answer is only for what you are. You will not know the trust I have in you unless you extend it. You will not trust the guidance of the Holy Spirit or believe that it is for you unless you hear it in others. It must be for your brother because it is for you. Would God have created a voice for you alone? Could you hear his answer except as he answers all of God's sons? Hear of your brother what you would have me hear of you, for you would not want me to be deceived.
So this is about prayer isn't private. Prayer is never private. In other words, if I pray for something for myself, like I'm going to get something, with the exception, and we went into this a long time ago in another section, I'm actually praying for the entire sonship. Now, it doesn't mean that I have everyone in mind and that I never make a private prayer. It just means that the answers to prayers are grand gestures of healing
And
across.
it also says here, you will not know the trust I have in you unless you extend it, and you will not trust the guidance of the Holy Spirit or believe that it is for you unless you hear it in others. So it has to do with a trusting that once I put a prayer out, that the Holy Spirit is going to answer me through a brother, or through this is specific from a brother, not from a situation. But I found the answers to be coming from other things that are happening, not just a brother sometimes. So I don't know. And I guess, as a brother, somebody on the computer, I don't know, Those are lots of voices out there.
Well, the voices, as far as I know, it's again, we're back to the holographic fractal type geometry of what it is to be an isolated local self in the sonship. It means that my receptivity to the voice of Spirit, based on my creative response of believing what it is that I'm hearing from a brother. The brother is the whole situation. It's a whole context. I mean, in this case, at least I take it this way. A brother isn't just people, but the Course is, given that it's an answer to Helen Schuckman about her relationship with Bill Tedford, it's always placed in the form of relationship to people. But I'm going to say that because of generalizing out, if you're online, you're hearing stuff online. You've got a perceptual response. There you go. That's a brother there somewhere. If you're, I'm in my house and there's a hailstorm outside, and the shingles are coming down off the roof because of the hailstorm. Well, that's a perceptual situation. I'm receiving something from the sonship. It calls for relationality. It doesn't call. It's not. You don't interpret it as attack. You interpret it as it's time for me to attack. Mm-hmm. Now you leap into action. It's like you don't get paralyzed with a metaphysical thing. You got to have also faith. And this goes back to my situation in the 9th grade with the kid that called me a name. Spirit knows. It doesn't say, poor dumb boob hasn't done the Course in Miracles yet. I guess he's just not going to get anything. That's not what happens. What happens is God, in the mind of God, I am a particular thing. Okay? I am a thing. I interpret myself as a thing. The roof, the house, a brother, a perception off the internet, a sound, all of those are things as well in my world. What I have confidence and faith in is that what I'm perceiving from that, if I perceive it as attack, I perceived it wrong. Okay? It's wrong. If I perceive it as irrelevant, I've perceived it as wrong. What I perceive it as is a message from the mind of God in a form that may be something I didn't expect or don't understand. So I'm postured to receiving the truth from my environment, no matter what it seems like it's coming at me. And that leads to a constant posturing towards forgiveness instead of attack or, so that, in other words, the Course wants my knee-jerk reaction to be extension and forgiveness.
Yes, it does.
It doesn't want my knee-jerk reaction to be, I wonder why they did that, I wonder what they're up to. No, you don't even say that. You say, it's truth. It's coming from a brother. Why is it coming to me this way? And
then you ask the Holy Spirit to help you interpret what that answer is.
You have to. You can't live with it because then it leads to masochism.
Yeah, and not only that, but we make meaning out of a meaningless world. So, you really, again, as these things come to you as answers to prayer, then we don't understand what the answers are. And as it said prior, is that there's been many things that were answered, but you were not aware of it. So that's always interesting.
Well, and you can always... You can fish stuff out. As I said, an event that happened way in the past that you think you've buried and it's gone, and you say, well, that's a lot of water under the bridge. I wish I had known then what I know now, and that kind of thing.
But the awareness that dawns on your mind now can still be a healing.
No doubt.
Yeah.
In the mind of God, if you go into the mind of God, he knew it was going to take 25 years to figure that one out.
Yeah.
He knew that it was going to take that long.
Right.
He knew it would sit there and gestate in a certain sort of a toxic form. It's not that he wants it to be a toxic form, but he just knows because of what you are, it's going to take a certain gestation period for any given insight to come.
Right. Yeah. Okay, let's continue. Paragraph 7. I love you for the truth in you, as God does. Your deceptions may deceive you, but they cannot deceive me. Knowing what you are, I cannot doubt you. I hear only the Holy Spirit in you, who speaks to me through you. If you would hear me, hear my brothers in whom God's voice speaks. The answer to all prayers lies in them. You will be answered as you hear the answer in everyone. Do not listen to anything else, or you will not hear truly. Believe in your brothers, because I believe in you, and you will learn that my belief in you is justified. Believe in me by believing in them, for the sake of what God gave them. They will answer you if you learn to ask only truth of them. Do not ask for blessings without blessing them, for only in this way can you learn how blessed you are. By following this way, you are seeking the truth in you. This is not going beyond yourself, but toward yourself. Hear only God's answer in his sons, and you are answered.
There's not a thing in the Course in Miracles. It has, because of the nature of it, it's couched in subjects, predicates, objects, and whatnot. But none of it is linear. Even though the language of English language is pretty linear, the Course isn't linear. And so that all of this, I am in you, and you are in me, and we are in them, and all this kind of thing sounds like I am the walrus, doesn't it? But,
yes, it does.
But whatever that stuff is, it's always an expression that I'm not a private self praying to a guy named Jesus and he's going to do this and the Holy Spirit's going to help me understand my particular thing and I'm going to get my particular thing. Is to understand that this is, I'm looking into a situation that needs healing, and the person that's on the other side of it, or the group of people or the organization that's on the other side of it, as I pray for healing, I have to realize that spontaneously, there, then, now, not in the future, then, boom, my understanding, my perceptual reaction, the prayer is in it, and the answer to the prayer is in it. Then, right then, whether it's an ache or a pain or a group or a problem or a person across the way, the answer to the prayer is in it because God is in everything. The mind of God extends to all bits and all pieces of all of this fractal holographic totality. And so Jesus is saying, what I hear him saying is, or the author of the book, I will not answer an individual prayer because that reinforces your misunderstanding of yourself as an individual creature. Now, I might receive it in my life. I'll go, oh, that's an individual healing. Now, if I want to surround it and become possessive of the healing or of the change in my situation, if I surround it, like wrap my arms around and go, Jesus loves me so much, I am glad that he loves me so much that he can help me answer, I'm missing the point. There's an opportunity there to receive an answer and extend in gratitude, always to receive whatever answer and extend in gratitude out.
Yeah.
We had all that stuff that happened with my son about him getting up to Minneapolis and getting a job and all this kind of stuff. And it was a sort of a formidable task to do, point A to point B to C to D. And Joanna and I were in constant prayer during that process.
Right.
We truly were in constant prayer because why? It's not because of my son per se. It's because he's an extension of Spirit. He has certain obstacles, certain things he has to go through. Those obstacles are reflexive of my own obstacles and difficulties. If I have to carry him like a football over some sort of a goal line, then I have to recognize I am carrying me over that goal line.
Absolutely.
And that when he achieves, and I can say, and he throws his arms up and goes touchdown, I say
touchdown.
And that it was accomplished. And for what reason? To heal a whole community. It's not just him. It's not just me and you.
Yeah.
It's a whole community of people, including his sister, his mother, all the people he meets at that job.
Yeah.
It's an extension out. So you have to see that my prayer, which obviously has certain forms that are driven by selfish responses, the Course is saying, good enough. Just recognize that Jesus and the Holy Spirit are not going to come into those things and nail it down as, look at that individual prayer. Do you realize this? Because in this way, prayers and to receive prayers answered suddenly becomes the healing of the whole world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've noticed since we've been doing this and everything else, that I have been able to suspend judgment about even people who I consider friends a little bit better and say, they're an answer, or they're talking to me exactly in the manner in which I need to reflect on what they are for me in my life and things like that, as opposed to just throwing a judgment about this, that, and the other thing. Because then, I mean, the Course says, judge them, you judge yourself. Bless them, you get the blessing back. So turn your judgments into blessings. That's all I can say. I mean, it's a practice to do that, actually, to start to recognize that everything that's showing up is actually a blessing for my life. Will I bless it? Or will I extend it as an extension that's coming to me? Or will I say, oh, get me out of here, or that needs to change in that person or that situation?
Well, perception. Perception is a private interpretation by the local self of whatever's going on out there. I've had the experience since Joanna and I have been doing this with more, I don't know what you'd call it. We're applying ourselves to it, let's put it that way, the daily lessons and whatnot. I have experienced the fact that we're still watching the same news shows. They still have the same dreadful information. It's still the same political meltdowns, the same stuff. But my perceptual response has shifted to where it seems more and more as an unfolding dance of logical outcomes, which I may not know, but I feel, again, perceptually prepared to be pleasantly surprised by the outcome of whatever it is, no matter how dreadful it is out there. Now, again, I'm not in it. And because I'm not in it, that's a message to me that I can hold it in prayer and offer it to the Holy Spirit for reinterpretation, for the healing of the whole sonship. Not all of us not all of us can be in the disaster.
Thank God.
No, exactly.
I don't want to be in it. There's been plenty of them going on, especially the weather war stuff. So, let's see. I'm just trying to think if I read. Yeah, I did read all of that. To disbelieve is this is paragraph 9. To disbelieve is to side against or attack. To believe is to accept and to side with. To believe is not to be credulous, but to accept and appreciate. What you do not believe, you do not appreciate, and you cannot be grateful for what you do not value. There is a price you will pay for judgment, because judgment is the setting of a price. And as you set it, you will pay it. I'm going to read, because they're going on to the paying of this now. Paragraph 10. If paying is equated with getting, you will set the price low, but demand a high return. You will have forgotten, however, that to price is to value, so that your return is in proportion to your judgment of worth. If paying is associated with giving, it cannot be perceived as loss, and the reciprocal relationship of giving and receiving will be recognized. The price will then be set high because of the value of the return. The price for getting is to lose. The price for getting is to lose sight of value, making it inevitable that you do not value what you receive. Valuing it little, you will not appreciate it, and you will not want it. And I'm going to go on because it actually continues to go on about the values and giving and receiving, the reciprocal relationship. Never forget then that you set the value on what you receive and price it by what you give. To believe that it is possible to get much for little is to believe that you can bargain with God. God's laws are always fair and perfectly consistent. By giving, you receive. But to receive is to accept, not to get. It's impossible not to have, but it is possible to not to know you have. It is impossible not to have, but it is possible not to know you have. The recognition of having is the willingness for giving, and only by this willingness can you recognize what you have. What you give is therefore the value you put on what you have, being the exact measure of the value you put upon it. And this in turn is the measure of how much you want it. So,
this whole section of what chapter is it, 9?
The answer to prayer, it's chapter 9, the acceptance of the atonement.
Yeah, so this whole section of chapter 9 seems to be, it's used at least 3 different major sort of examples of this. Let's say it one more time. Reality has a three-dimensional, 4-dimensional, 5-dimensional holographic quality, so that if I'm experiencing something, I can generalize my experience to the whole thing, okay? And if something is coming towards me, I can generalize my experience that I'm receiving something that's appropriate to the whole thing, so that there's no way that I have a little private world where I am the only one affected. And so it expands this whole holographic image out to value, getting
versus having.
Pricing something. Mm-hmm. So it's saying that if I think I'm going to get something, the ego's way is I'm going to get something. I want to pay as little as possible and get as much as I can. Mm-hmm. It's immediately calling that to task and saying, you got to understand that leads you to hell, mm-hmm. because it's not logical, it's not possible. There's no way to really get something big, mm-hmm. and pay something small. It's this matter of having and valuing. In other words, if I value something, I have it.
Yes.
If it's valuable, I have it.
Right. And the recognition that you have, and you have all, this is, to me, the Course is always saying, what do you have? You have what you're being. And also, is your being associated with being one with God and Jesus? Or is your being associated with being my individuated self? Well, having only really comes with knowing that I am, or at least an awareness or a desire for that I am one with God. If I don't recognize that, I will always jip on what I give, whether it's an emotional giving, or if it's actual physically giving of money or transportation or whatever it is. I will feel put upon. I will feel like, why am I doing this? Am I getting anything out of this? I could get really angry about it.
Well, let me go to a specific, because this was a big deal. Last night I looked up this channel, these A Course in Miracles sessions that we're doing, mm-hmm. and it's like, I've gotten 2 views, from, and it's been like 3 days, 4 days, 2 views. I'm going, and it leads to an absolute sort of a crashing, crestfallen feeling of failure, mm-hmm. and maybe even stupidity of why in the hell am I doing this? I mean, I spend a certain amount of time producing the deal and all
Absolutely.
This. So what I'm saying is, I'm shelling out a lot of effort, mm-hmm. And what I'm getting back is like 2 views. So I'm not. So it leads to this depression. Mm-hmm. Now, yesterday's lesson was I will there be light. Well, I'll tell you what, I willed there be light, and the light wasn't coming anytime soon. I felt bad. I felt depressed. I opened it up. I gave it to the Holy Spirit. I went through the process of saying, okay, Phil, you are depressed about something. You want something to happen in this world. Is it that you want a lot of people to like catch fire with your particular voice, your insight? What is it you really, really want? And do you want the whole picture there? And how much what effort? Maybe you need to edit more. Maybe you need to get better film footage. Maybe you need to get more cameras involved. Maybe so that there's this idea of price. And then for me to eventually hit a price point so that I get a lot back, And the Course is saying it has to do with value.
Yeah.
Value and having. You have it all already, according to the Course.
Yeah.
As having a part of the mind of God, I have it. So this is the posturing that has to be nurtured, cultivated. I have it already. So what's the have? Does it mean I have 200,000 views or 2 million or 2 billion?
Subscribers.
Right, subscribers, and not the 2 views that are really showing up. In other words, any moment now it's going to burst into flames. No. In the wisdom...
Would we even know what to do with that if it
well,
happened?
And that's the point. The Course says I would not get an answer of a bunch of views because it would probably scare me. I mean, it hadn't happened ever on anything. So, and it also then it would throw me into another sort of a category. So there obviously, in terms of the wisdom of this, there are things I have to understand about what Joanna and I are up to in doing this process of lacking, not listening to my voice. And when I see 2 views and I hear our interactions and I say, wow, how lame. Of course they're not listening. Or if I get if I get a whopping 50 views, I go, wow, the world is catching on. I mean, it's like that's where I'm at as an ego. And that has to be healed. It has to be healed. We've already dedicated ourselves to that process of doing the Course, recording it in this way. And so, as the Course said, I have to believe, I have to accept that Spirit is speaking truth through the view column, which says 2. That's truth coming at me. This is how many listened. That's where it's at. Does it mean you don't have it all? No, I've got it. I've got everything that I could have wanted. Okay.
Wherever 2 or more are gathered, there's love.
Well,
there you go.
And they were there.
Yeah,
those 2 showed up.
That's right.
Anyway, so you understand my point?
Yeah, absolutely.
That the depressions, the disappointments, my prayers not answered, my wishes not fulfilled, it creates real trouble. But
I already know that the Holy Spirit is waiting for you to get your little system down so that, when the pressure comes on, it's like, hey, where's the next one? Hey, where's the next one? You're not going, oh my God, I have to hurry up and get it done.
Right.
So
well, we'll see how that one works out.
We can build up. I don't know. Whatever happens, it's good. Okay. So, paragraph 12. You can ask of the Holy Spirit then only by giving to Him. And you can give to Him only where you recognize Him. If you recognize Him in everyone, consider how much you will be asking of Him and how much you will receive. He will deny you nothing because you have denied Him nothing, and so you can share everything. This is the way and the only way to have this is the way and the only way to have His answer. Because His answer is all you can ask for and want. Say then to everyone, because I will know myself, I see you as God's Son and my brother. And that's the end of this section.
So again and again, I have to be weaned away from my usual cause-effect view. The Course is saying cause and effect are unified. Cause and effect are the same. I have to wean myself away from thinking, I'm at cause, I get an effect. I do a cause, I do an effect, whether it has to do with YouTube views or a pain in the hip or a money issue. We are not in cause and effect. When you're in or striving or praying or extending to the best of my ability, given my shortcomings, into the, towards the mind of God and receiving that extension back, it has all been received. It is all there. It is there, and that your price is only to extend and to recognize. That's all. The price is to turn it over for the reinterpretation, so that cause becomes effect. Cause becomes effect. Repeat after me. And I don't know exactly what that means, but you see that's the essential difference between the egoic thought system, is that I'm over here doing something, and over here I'm going to get these effects.
Yeah, it's a getting.
Right.
Versus knowing that you already have all that you require in any moment for the right answer to be received. And so my take on this section and everything else is recognizing, however I'm getting these answers and answers that maybe I don't like or anything else, that would be that I've misinterpreted what the Holy Spirit is trying to say to me, particularly if I put the prayer out. I mean, obviously, if you're putting a prayer out where you and I saying we want to not only awaken ourselves, but we want to awaken our brothers and sisters in this process. I mean, because we are going through the process in real time. Well, if that's a real earnest prayer, the Holy Spirit is going to make sure that we're ready for receiving that particular awareness that anything is happening as well, that what we're doing for our own life has already had an influence on the sonship, whether we know it or not. And it will show up or not show up in a YouTube thing.
Well, the only thing I want to add, because I love what you just said. I think that says it well. And there's nothing I could really add to it. But I do want to point out, from my own viewpoint, for my own edification, that if I misinterpret and if I persist in being in a cause and effect modality in this tiny situation of dealing with a social media channel called YouTube and what I do, I'm going to work on thumbnails, I'm going to work on renaming, I'm going to work on video technique, I'm going to work on, I'm going to get on YouTube, I'm going to spend a lot of time with channel makers, and they're going to tell me the things I'm doing wrong and the things that they do right, and they're going to make all these suggestions. That's a complete derail from this process, which is in spirit. It's to give creative agency to somebody at channel makers or to the YouTube place or whatever, or to precedent on YouTube, and to lose the point that we are in a process of trying to understand extension, and that cause and effect is one. We've already made that decision. We're already here. It is right, not correct. It's right. It's right just the way it is, and to not get derailed into doing a bunch of causes, trying to go fishing for a bunch of effects.
Right.
It totally misses the point of doing the Course in Miracles in the first place.
Yeah, I agree. And so, by doing this particular reading, we've learned something. So that's the point of it,
Yeah.
We learn about ourselves.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.